Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Sports. The Springboks beating Scotland 32 points to 50. A scoreline which maybe doesn't necessarily reflect the match. A match where the Boks, maybe not at their best, to be perfectly honest. We've seen them play a lot better this year, but a little bit of rust early on, and it didn't look like particularly difficult conditions, but pretty poor handling over the game. But at the end of the day, the nuke squad, so to speak, did its job. It's the power game from the box was always going to be a lot for Scotland to try and contain, and at the end they just couldn't. So job done as far as the box are concerned. 32 points to 15, scoring 4 tries. You're not going to complain about that result, but it was a performance where I think there's room for a lot of improvement, especially for a side that's beaten the All Blacks twice this year, for example. That's beaten Ireland. And Scotland were good at stages, but if Scotland were better, I think Scotland didn't have their best day. I think a couple of better passes, a few mistakes potentially from Scotland, and I think it actually could have been quite a close game, to be brutally honest. And that in itself is quite interesting. So we're going to move to the play rates a bit shortly, but before that, we're going to break the game down a little bit in terms of what happened when. Before we do that, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. It was a perfect start, really, from the box. An early couple of set pieces, and bang, all of a sudden, cross kick from Andre Pollard to Makazole Mapimpi. He goes over in the 3rd minute, and we're thinking, right, there we go. Things only get worse for Scotland after Scott Cummings was yellow carded initially and then upgraded to a red card. It's a 20-minute red card, though, so he was replaced. But after that, Scotland getting back-to-back penalties in the 16th and the 21st minute. Before Thomas the Toy got himself a try. A really poor line, ironically. Went through the hands of Franco Mostert, but backwards through the hands. Wasn't the best throw from Bongi Manambi. And very good reactions from Thomas the Toy, who managed to grab the ball, looked up, there was nobody ahead of him, and he dived over. Pollard adding the extras to make it 12 points to 6, but Scotland just didn't go away. I think that's the main thing. Russell then added a penalty in the 32nd minute. The biggest difference, I think, throughout the game is that the box kept managing to find tries, and Scotland were basically replying with penalties. And right towards the end of the half as well, a really, really good move. Line out, bit of space in behind, a couple of phases, and then Vinny Leroux, so clever. Seeing the vision, Maximo Pimpi was kind of like looping sort of behind him around, basically, towards the left-hand side, and basically just chipped it into the space that Pimpi did. Ran on. It was a really good try assist. I don't think people are actually appreciating just how good it was from Vinny Leroux. And then bang. So half-time, you're thinking 19 points to 9. Game should almost be in the bag. Start well in the second half, and we can get cooking. Start well is what we did not do. You played really, really badly for the first 15-20 minutes of that second half. Finn Russell added a penalty in the 43rd minute. Maximo Pimpi got a yellow card, so we're down to 14 men. Once again, Russell adding another penalty, suddenly 15 points to 19. All of a sudden, Scotland are in the game. A converted try and they were in the lead. And the Box just didn't play particularly well, in the second half. They were making silly mistakes. Handling errors were really prevalent. We just couldn't really get a grip on the game, to be honest. But eventually, slowly but surely, the scrum was always going to be the dominant force for us, and it was against once today. Every single time we had an issue, you just went to a scrum, won a penalty, kicked us out of danger, for example. Pollard then kicked 2 penalties in the 64th minute and the 73rd minute, and then right towards the end, again, we went to the scrum, and huge effort, basically scrummed them over the line. And all that Visa had to do was basically just pick it up and dot it down in the 79th minute. Pollard then adding the extras. So final score, 32 points to 15. As I said, it doesn't maybe really reflect the game, because I felt Scotland were in it for most of the game, to be honest. Up until maybe that second Pollard penalty, but 60 minutes at 15 points to 19, 20 minutes to go. Scotland looked really up for it, and the Boks were making some really uncharacteristic errors where it didn't look like we were particularly up for it. So, it's selection conundrums, I think, a little bit for the coaching staff. I don't think they expected us to be that poor at times. And I think if Scotland were slightly more on it, a couple of Hugh Jones passes, which is very uncharacteristic, not going to hand. With Duan van der Merwe finding space down the left-hand side, a different day, those passes go to hand. They score, for example, and it could have been a different game. So if we look at some of the stats, quite interesting. Territory-wise, Scotland actually had more. Box with 56% possession, though. Set piece wise, 100% scrum rate. The scrum is so good. We all know the scrum is so good, and it was no different today. Absolutely world class Lineouts weren't great. 82% lineout percentage. Scotland was 92. So lots to work on, I think, with regards to our lineouts. If we look at some of the other stats, for example, post-contact means quite similar. We had the same amount of line breaks, a similar amount of ball carries, for example, very similar amount of passes. So it was quite a game of both teams equally playing well and badly at different times. In terms of turnovers, 16 turnovers lost from Saka will be a worry. And 11 penalties conceded there. Discipline got a lot better in the last 15 minutes because previously we were getting pinned quite a lot, and that's usually a result of pressure. But defensively, tackles made 125 to Scotland's 148, missing 26. Scotland actually had a higher percentage, but we scored the try. So I suppose, you're not going to complain really when we didn't concede a try, but far too many penalties in the red zone, which is what kept Scotland in the game. In terms of individual performances, Evan Etzebeth was absolutely gigantic. Such a world-class player. Put in a massive shift, just kept battering them over and over again. Played a full 80, the only forward to do so. I thought that Pimpy still looks really, really good. Vilu had a very hot and cold game. He had some really, really good interventions, a couple of bad sort of missed tackles, a couple of poor kicks, but I thought generally it was quite good. I do think we'll probably see Upgrade Vastly next week. Thought RJ Polo struggled a little bit. Jane Henderson probably had the worst game I've seen him in a Bok jersey, which is uncharacteristic from him because he's usually very classy, especially at test level. But the main thing is to get the result, isn't it, at the end of the day, which we did. And at 15 points to 32, it's a 17-point win. So you're not going to complain about it. But I think the main thing from a Bok perspective is lots and lots of room for improvement. And hopefully we will see that improvement next week against England. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. And what do you guys think of the game itself? Let me know in the comments.